in. I went to my office yesterday, so
How'd that go?
good. It was really good. It was good. We have a new receptionist, so that's different. And uh so just had a couple of more interruptions than normal. Because
Okay.
she was just coming in and getting to know me and wanting to know what I needed and just very attentive, but it was just different because I went there to kind of be a little bit more focused. I mean, I got a lot of stuff done, but I just wasn't expecting the interruptions.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, it was nice to be in there. I had the windows open and yeah, it was. I was able to concentrate. I mean, I can concentrate here too. I guess it's just the change of scenery, maybe. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yesterday I did yoga out remember I was telling you about we were doing it outside.
Oh
And
yeah.
I was, there's a part of me that was like really resistant, I'll honestly say.
Hmm.
Because doing it on Zoom, first off, you don't have the distraction of seeing other people. Good morning, Gretchen. Um,
Morning.
you don't have the distraction of seeing other people. So that's nice. And it's an hour. So it's actually an hour. So you go on at 6 o'clock and you're off at 7 o'clock.
Okay.
Whereas when I went out yesterday, I left the house at maybe about 5:40 rushing there to get there by 6 o'clock. And then I got back home at 8 o'clock. Of course, I made a few stops on the way, but it's no longer an hour. It's like it's at least, you got the commute there and the commute back. So it's more like 2 hours. Which, you know, if you got
Where'd you work out?
where
Uh-huh.
it's
Where'd you
it's
go outside?
it's it's called the Thurgood Marshall Recreation Center. So we
Oh yeah, that's
out
okay. You mentioned that. Mm-hmm.
on Huff, and so we're out there on the grass.
Okay.
And so yeah, it's just that it's a longer commitment now. And I don't know if everybody like thinks about commute time as part of the time that you're allocating to something, but even like when you go to the gym in the morning, it's not just that you go to the gym, it's that you got to get there, then you do your
Right.
workout, then you go by Starbucks, and then
Yep.
you meander your way home. So, so it turns out to be at least an hour and a half to hour.
Yeah, so I leave the house at 3:35, 3:40, get to the gym by 5 minutes to 4. And then I have my alarm set for 4:40, 4:55, so I can go back to the dressing room, get dressed, and have the Rhonda, to get on the Writers Club at
Mm-hmm,
5.
mm-hmm.
And then I go to the gym. So I usually get back home by 5:30. So that's like 2 hours.
Yeah, see, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, it's 2 hours.
That's a
So
lot of time. Ooh.
I mean, I'm just, I, you know,
That's interesting.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and I guess that's the way that I tend to look at it. It's like I love doing the yoga, but it's like, man, that's time
That's
when
cool
you're
that you
when
can
you
do it on the Zoom though. I'm
yeah.
gonna try. I think I keep saying that. Doing the yoga online or on my phone and stuff. I don't know. It's just different from when it's in person. I have a better experience. Um,
Yes, and then like yesterday, you when you hold in a position, like if I'm at home, if I start hurting, I might go in the child pose, right?
right.
When you in front of other people, it's like, you girl, you better not, you better not, you better not. But yesterday when we had to go into a lunge, I went down into the lunge and I toppled over. Poop. I knew not to make a sound because everybody would have looked. I was just like, okay, let me just get up, Sandra. So, okay. So anyway, good. You know what? So many things have come up since we've been doing this work. You say that's an understatement, huh? And it really causes you to look at I think stuff different. Is that what's happening for you too, Gretchen? I mean, it really causes you to become more aware of not just your own stuff too. It's like, you know,
Yeah.
you sit there and you like, you know, that's kind of the way that I'm processing it. It's like, I get it, especially with friends that I know that I have shared with over the years.
Mm.
You know, uh, yeah. Gretchen says it helps me to allow myself to breathe through the difficult and appreciate the good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you know, and it's so funny because like when we talk about people and their families and their family of origin, I am so keenly aware. I've always been aware, especially when I've dated somebody, how they interact with their family,
Mm.
right? What they, if they reveal what they think about their family. I
Mm-hmm.
have always been like all on that because my family is so important to me.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And if I feel as if it is going to be a hindrance, like my sister dates somebody, oh, and he blocked me, so I don't have to worry about ever seeing. Who knows why he blocked me, but he did. I think he, you know, I don't know, maybe he thinks it's a privilege to see his stuff, which I never do. You know, I got a lot of friends so I never see his stuff, but it's, he does not like our family at all.
That's wow.
There is nobody except for my sister that he likes.
Wow. And you think, how is that possible? Because she's us.
Right. How you know, and it used to be, well, it still is, that normally we try to, like, if he's around, like say for instance, if you pull up to her house and you see his car, normally we just back right back out. It's just like, yeah, not today. And you try to not allow that to modify your behavior, but it does.
Mm.
Because you can, yeah, it's something that you can tangibly feel. And
Wow.
um yeah, and I think it, and so I'm keenly aware when I start dating somebody or if I've met people, I am keenly aware of how they talk about their family. Um, and so I have met people who don't have respect for family members. guy I used to call his brother, no lie, he used to call him his dumbass little brother. And I just couldn't abide that anymore. I was just like, you know what? We got to talk about it. We got to come up with some new language because that ain't, and especially once I met him, I was like, this ain't cool. This ain't cool. It ain't cool no kind of way.
Your
And
CB guy is on.
huh?
Your CB neighbor is on.
Oh, can you hear it?
Uh,
I can't hear anything now.
yeah, he's awake.
Okay, that just kills me. It irritates me. So.
I can still hear you clearly. I just making you aware that it's
Okay.
happening.
Okay, and I changed a lot. I changed out a lot so that I would not be able to hear him. But I think that that's when my thing starts humming.
Oh, that
Because
makes
I can
sense.
hear it humming, but I can't hear him talking.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So yeah, so it just, and so stuff like that kind of it makes me wonder. It makes me Gretchen said she thought it was her. So that's it, Gretchen. I have a neighbor who has this big CB tower in his yard that is like it's higher than the houses. The tip of it is. It's higher than the houses so that he could get his signal out. And it has a remote on there that you can hear it as he shifts it around. It turns, it does this big turn. It's crazy. He
Amazing.
had yeah. He had this line guy come over with one of those belts on and kind of scoot his way up this pole that they put up in order to put that thing up there. And to me, it doesn't, it just irritates me. So I have changed out my speakers because it would come through the subwoofers, even when nothing was on in my house, it would just come through. So irritating. Anyway, so it just makes me aware of the different ways in which those family things come through and still inform. And even though, huh?
I just said yes, yes, yes,
Yes.
yes.
And even though I don't always like agree with what my siblings do, I never, because I would have got a whooping. I mean, I couldn't even see calling my brothers a dumbass or something because I would have got a whooping. My parents were real clear about that. Like these are in your life for the rest of your life, and you will love them and respect them. So I don't, that's not even the issue. But I might as well put it all where it, because they really were adamant about our relationships, and I think our closeness shows it. So whatever.
I think that it has changed. Well, I got to grab the phone, you guys. Sorry.
Okay. So anyway, yeah, while she grabs her call, you guys, I want to first do a quick just centering us. So if we just breathe. Oh, sometimes you got to be just so grateful and thankful for your breath and how when you breathe in and you breathe deeply, how that breath just your whole body, your whole being benefits from that breath. And so just breathing in is one of those centering things, and knowing that as you breathe in that you are nourished by something that you can't even see, actually. Just, it's here, it's present, it's here now. That energy that animates and moves all through you. It is good and very good. And so even blessing the air, blessing your water, blessing your food, it all does something. That praise raises things. And so that's, sort of what we do when we pray, I hope, is that we acknowledge that there is this wonderful divine presence that is working for us, in us, through us all these days. So yay. I'm not, anyway. So we just give thanks for this moment, give thanks that the words spoken here are filled with your light, love, and wisdom of the highest. And as we come into this space, just knowing that there will be something here that causes us to see more clearly, see this wonderful life that is ours more dearly. Yay. All right. So nothing out of the way. But today since we're meandering our way through this book, we are actually on 109 finally. And I want to say we're like 45 days in or something, 42, 43, 44. Yeah, about 45 days in. So we are just really just kind of taking it easy as we go through here. And now we're talking about the energy consequences of belief patterns. And, when we talk about belief patterns, that kind of is, each of us have these certain belief patterns that we adhere to. And so in here, we are going to just kind of go through this. And so I want to, because I did not read this prior to, again, right? So I've read this book about at least 4 times, right? Because I got 4 different color highlights in here. And it is one of those books that you kind of refer back to, even, once you've read it, you kind of, where did I hear that? You go back and you pull stuff out. So I've read this book at least 4 times. I did not, usually what I do is the night before, I read what we're reading before I read ahead, and then sleep on it so that it works on me, so that I know when I wake up in the morning what I'm talking about. It's like, I get this ministering to me. But last night I did not do that, because last night I was consumed with, I went to yoga, got back at 8 o'clock, and then I still had to eat and then try to be in bed at a decent time, which did not happen. I got in bed about 10, but nevertheless, whatever, I didn't do my homework last night. So here on 109, I think that we left off right here as we started talking about this energy consequences of belief patterns. And so she says, regardless of the truth of familiar beliefs, every one of them directs a measure of our energy into an act of creation. Each belief, each action has a direct consequence. And so when we share belief patterns with groups of people, we participate in the energy and physical events created by those groups. And so we used the example yesterday, I think, about racism. We had quite a few belief patterns that we talked about, and how once you have this pattern based on the group that you're in, most of the time what you try to do is you try to adhere to your group of origins, thinkings, or ideas. So like, say for instance, people that I know that were raised Catholic have very adamant ideas about their practice, to the extent where they don't even go into a place that is, because almost like it's a sin to go into a different church or a different kind of teaching. And so that was always really interesting to me, because I had never really been exposed to I'm sitting way back in order to not be in the light. But I don't know, it probably aren't looking at me anyway, but it's just that so built into a lot of these practices are things to do and not to do. So regional, they can be religious, they could be family, it can be social group. I went when I worked for, I'm gonna tell y'all this. When I worked for the Board of Elections, I was going out and I was doing trainings all over the place. And there was a group of women that I had befriended that were working with me. And so we were going out to lunch one day, and I invited another woman to come to lunch. Well, it was amazing to me how the energy of the group that I had come to be a part of had shifted simply because I didn't recognize that apparently our little group had rules. And so when we showed up to lunch, I show up with this other woman, and y'all, it was really interesting because not only did they got in there and they decided that they were not going to order, that they weren't going to eat with us. And they told me, that's your friend. It was almost like I was in a clique and didn't know I was in a clique. And so I'm trying to think of what was the issue here, right? I didn't get it. But what I later found out is that she wasn't one of the cute ones, one of the pretty girls. I was thinking, like, when did I get to be a part of that group? I was just like, what? Oh, so yes, they basically did not order lunch. They left us, the two of us, sitting there at the table because I brought somebody that wasn't in the clique. They left us there and they went on about and did whatever they was going to do, but it wasn't with me. I was just devastated because I didn't realize that that was the rule. So, so sometimes the rules are overt, and then sometimes you hear them accidentally or you find them out accidentally. But it is a violation of this idea that all is one. And so it wasn't something that I was going to necessarily be a part of, because that's not where my psyche goes. My psyche is, you know, I don't operate like that in the world. I like who I like, and it's not for because they fit into a certain type of way of being or thinking or any of that stuff. I just, you know, there are certain people that just, and I'm really generous with my time and attention anyway. So I'm owning that. I'm owning that. So I'm sure that there will be people who beg to differ, because I don't like to waste time. If I feel as if I am, you know, one of the things that people say is be around people who cause you to be better, right? Not around people who are operating at the base. And so, yes, I am not all about the base. I am all about the elevation. And so, so yes, I do have, I spend more time with people who I find some benefit in. So and so that's how, you know, so when she talks about this idea about belief patterns, that goes into that. Carl Jung once remarked that the group mind is the lowest form of consciousness because individuals involved in a negative group action rarely, if ever, accept responsibility for their personal role or action. And so we've seen this, we've seen it operate. We have seen other people when they talk about group mind. You learned about this in sociology, how a lot of times when people are in a group, they take on the momentum of the group, and sometimes they push the group to do things that they would never as an individual do on their own. So when they talk about the insurrection that happened on January 6th, individually, who knows if those people would have stormed the Capitol or would have done the actions that they did. But because now you have a group mindset, that group is kind of like getting together a posse. That group then takes on a different life all its own. So this reality, she says, is the shadow side of this all is one. In fact, unwritten tribal law holds that the leader accepts responsibility and not the followers. So if you can imagine that there have been a lot of times where people have overridden their common sense, overridden the alarms that are going off in their head saying that this is not right, and then just blame it on, yeah, I was just following as directed. I was doing what I was told. And so that can be considered dangerous. She goes into the Nuremberg trials and Nazi Germany and all those places where people talked about that they were just following orders. And so it can have this tendency to circumvent your rational mind and your rational thinking. And so at a certain point, though, we are all responsible. We are responsible for the choices and the decisions that we make. I have, there have been times when I look around me and I think, yeah, this is not my group. This is not my tribe. This is not my thing. And rather than trying to turn the ship, I have done that, right? I have been a person that has been vocal and spoke out against things, but rather than trying to turn the ship, I have opted out. I have just like disengaged. And so I don't know if you can recall moments in your life when something like that has happened or not. But if you think about when you are, and I know, we go to parties and we do the same thing. It's like sometimes our sense of what we will do is overwritten. You end up doing more shots than you are possible or able to do, or you end up I don't know, doing a whole bunch of stuff. It doesn't always have to be negative. It's kind of like I was talking about before we started this about the yoga class. When I get in a yoga class and I actually have people around me, then I'm stretching them, doing more than what I would do if I was just by myself. Because if I was by myself, man, I would have dropped down in the child's pose so quick, thinking like, who stays in downward dog for 5 minutes, right? I mean, it's like my arms are hurting, my legs are hurting, but when I'm in a group, darn it, I'm not gonna be the one that that falls first. So it's kind of like that same thing. So here she goes on and she says that given the power of unified beliefs, right or wrong, it is difficult to be at variance with one's tribe. And so sometimes you actually have to figure out, well, I can break with this tribe. It's really interesting to see when your tribe can be something that you may have outgrown. I oftentimes have seen people who used to live in a certain geographic neighborhood, and then they go away, they go to college, they get married, they move, whatever the case may be. And all of a sudden there is a shift because that's no longer that tribe that they were originally associated with no longer becomes their main or their central identity. And their old tribe will try to reassert itself to say, hey, you got to come back into the fold, so to speak. And then there's this tug of war because on one hand, you got your new life pulling and your old life is pulling, and you feel like you're in the middle trying to decide what it is that you are doing, what you're thinking, what you're believing. And so so sometimes you get caught up in this. Symbolically, this adaptation reflects the union of individual willpower with the group's willpower. And so you do feel like it is a pull. If it is a powerful feeling to be in a group of people or a family with whom you feel spiritually and emotionally and physically comfortable, those issues will come up. Such union empowers us to and energetically enhances our personal power or creative strength. And it continues as long as we make choices consonant with the groups. We unite to create. And so that's one of the amazing things too about the 5 a.m. writers group that I am a part of. It is a synergy that is within that group, and that everybody in there is working on something. And so that forward motion or that movement, that dedication to your project makes you not want to show up and you haven't done any writing on your book, or you haven't, there have been people who sure have called in and or come in at the checkout, and she says, well, how'd your writing go, or what you working on? And somebody say, oh, I didn't do anything, right? And surely there are those of but you don't do so and not feel a certain level of, man, I gotta get on the ball, man, I gotta do some, I gotta put something on the page. If it's nothing more than 100 words, I gotta get something down. So there is a synergy that is created with the groups. And so your groups have a direct impact on you, and they say something about you. And so when a group no longer serves you, right, then that means that you figure that out, and then you decide, man, I mean, some groups you can't get out of, right? Like my family is my group, right? And I'm not about to get out of that, don't want to get out of that. But at the same time, we know that we are all pulling and pushing each other forward into something, into whatever that may be. So at the same time, she says, we have within us a relentless congenital desire to explore our own creative abilities, to develop our individual power and authority. We all have that within us, right? Because all of us, I mean, this thing, part of what we do in life is we mature, we grow. It always amazes me the numbers of people who sit down and stop trying, and why, right? Yesterday I went to, I've been working on my garden, and I went to a garden store because a friend of mine had gone by, and he came back and reported, like, yes, they have kale. Yes, they have collards. I didn't want any okra, but he kept telling me they had okra, and he was telling me about all the stuff that this store had. And so I was so excited to go up there because I wanted kale. And they had 2 different types. And so I go to the store, and when I get there, of course, you see these older people that are there, and they are pushing around their walker, going around and collecting the vegetables that they want. So you know that there is, if you see people who are on their walker and going out there to get stuff, this stuff is not stuff that they just gonna go home and collect or something like that. They actually have to go home and plant this into the ground. There is a wonderful thing, not only about seeing things grow, but actually getting out there and getting in the dirt yourself. And so when people are forced sometimes to sit down, it can be very hard and very traumatic. Even as people get older, they still want to feel useful and valuable. That is part of who we are. Life is movement. It is forward movement. And when you do nothing but sit down, when you do nothing but sit back, that also has an impact on you. So she is saying that this desire is the impetus behind our striving to become conscious, right? That all of this is about our growth. So the universal human journey is one of becoming conscious of our power and how to use that power. It wouldn't it be wonderful if all of us recognized and took responsibility for the power that we have, the energy that we have, the life force that we have? So becoming a conscious and responsible, uh, um, becoming conscious of the responsibility inherent in the power of choice represents the core of this journey. So when we are not doing what it is that we know is part of our journey, you feel it in a very deep way. It's as if you feel as though you have cheated yourself. And so there is this, once you know better, that this is one of the things I say, once you know better, you do better, right? It's one thing if you don't know, but it's another thing if you know better, then that means that you are pushed to do something. So from an energy perspective, becoming conscious requires stamina, right? And how do we build our stamina? We build our stamina by doing, by showing up each day, by doing something. So and so when you think about it, I am always of the mindset that that change is one of those things that's constant, right? Change happens. And when you are not changing, it's because you're resisting change. It takes active resistance to not change, because life in and of itself, by living, by paying attention, life will have an impact on you. So even if it's something that happens in the past, eventually the awareness catches up to the present and then can transform how you see things. And so when you don't allow that to happen, or when you resist it, you have to ask yourself, why am I resisting this? Why is it that, I'm caught up on not progressing or not being. So I dated a guy. Yeah, and it seems like I date a lot of guys, right? But that's not the case. I get in these long-term relationships that seem like they go on for a long time. Um, but they all come with a certain set of opportunities or obstacles or something to see that simply resonates with this stuff. But I had this friend of mine that I dated, this guy that I dated, and he used to say that stuff to me like, I haven't changed in 30 years. This is what I believed then, and this is what I believe now. And I would, and it always stunned me, because I was like thinking, are you proud of that? I mean, like, everything matures, everything progresses. And so the fact that you are stuck with the same mentality that you had when you were 20 or 25, to me seems problematic. To me seems like something that you would not want to brag about. That was me, right? Wasn't necessarily how they saw it. But when you think about it from that perspective, I think that all of us are responsible for, for how we see, how we engage, what it is that we allow ourselves to continue to think. If you are continuing to think the same thing over and over again, you've got to really ask yourself the question, why? Right? Why? Because even oh, there's a whole bunch of stuff that I'd like to say to that, but I'm gonna defer to this book here. When we change inwardly, we outgrow certain belief patterns and strengthen others. So this is like, for me, when I think about religion, right? Um, when I when I was going to a Baptist church, I had a particular belief, right? I believed what the pastor said. I listened to the sermons that he said. I thought, okay, even though I come out of there sometimes feeling like, I don't know, some kind of way, I'd feel people would call it convicted, but I would say conflicted, right? I would feel some kind of way about the things that I had heard. And when people would, you know, tell me, well, the Bible said it, so therefore it was true, I would have issue with that, right? I would, you know, and the more you study about this stuff, right, the more you find out that, you know, not only how many times the Bible was rewritten, that's all good. I'm not trying to say that it was, you know, but then you find out that there's different Bibles for different groups of people. They had slave Bibles, they had regular folks Bibles, they had the Apocrypha Bibles, they had different things that brought out different points. Even in the Bible, each of these you know, perspectives is just different perspectives, sometimes of the same thing. And then as I was reading it, I was like thinking to myself, like, well, why isn't there a book of Sandra here, right? And if God spoke and God was active back then, why not now, right? So if they had a God that they could hear and see and, you know, or hear and perceive, or whatever the case may be, is this not the same God now that was back then? And so why now do we not hear? Why, you know, is God silent? Did he put a period in it and say after Revelation there was no more? I was just like, after a while, it just, I couldn't fit into that where I was. I couldn't fit into that scenario because I had questions. I had questions. And so as I started to study for myself, that's and that's one of the wonderful things that that I used to tell people came out of my experience overseas. Because part of when I was overseas, at first I was miserable. I was so homesick. And I told myself that if and I took that old raggedy Bible that I have, I took that with me. And I told myself that if I just read this Bible from cover to cover, I would somehow be rescued or saved from the life that I was in, right? So I started reading for myself. And as I read the Bible, you know, and I mean, I was doing like, you know, every day I was spending a certain amount of time studying. And I came away with a whole different meaning. I came away with a different awareness. And so by the time I got back to this country, I was telling people what I believed, what I thought, right? What I gleaned from actually reading it. And I was like, to me, I was like, this is a love story. This is a book about love. And if you take out all the scary stuff, right? Because there's so much in there for us to be afraid of. If you take out all the scary stuff, you'll really see that all of it was about love. It wasn't even about the scary stuff. We make it about that. And so it changed me. But and then I found my tribe. This woman told me, she was like, oh, you sound like one of those living truth center people. What's the living? No, nobody thinks like I do, right? Nobody thinks like I do. And then I go over there to, eventually I kind of give up my resistance and I go over there to check it out. And I thought, okay, I could deal with this, right? That was when okay. And then once I found them, I was able to find other groups that were similar, you know, in feel and in insight of how they saw things. And so that attracted me. That vibe attracts your tribe. That attracted me. And so that was how I got out of what we call traditional types of mindsets. Because the traditional mindset was still putting man in the thing of saying God is out there somewhere, God is separate and apart, and he's judging you. And I was like, that wasn't working for me anymore. I had read for myself. I grew up, I matured, and then I had to get something different. So so this idea of staying always the same, of staying static within a particular way is not natural. It's not natural, right? And so what we do is because we don't want to change, we put blinders on, or we redefine it. We don't allow ourselves to answer the questions or the doubts that we have that come up in our minds, because we want to stay stuck in the same type of pattern. So so evaluating our beliefs is a spiritual and biological necessity. I mean, so she says it's a necessity, right? And I can't even imagine what a person who never questions their system, their belief system, I can't even imagine what that would feel like. If you don't question it and accept it, I got nothing, right? Because I can't even imagine it. It's not, to me, even that, even this concept of God, with as big as we have this concept, for me not to question it goes against everything that is me, right? And so that doesn't necessarily mean that I go to a minister to ask questions, because I already basically know what they gonna say. Get back in line, right? I already basically got that, right? I didn't want to hear that. I didn't want to hear you try to, smooth over the answer so that it sounds good. I'm going to go, and I'm saying, if these people who were in this book can hear God, then I can hear God too. And if I can't, then that means I'm not quiet enough, or I'm not sitting long enough, or I'm not waiting, or I'm not insisting, right? Because if anybody ever could do anything, then that means that it is able to be duplicated in this day and time. Maybe not a ram in the bush, because I don't even know where a ram would come from at this point. But if I was in a region where there was a ram, I'm sure I'd have one that showed up in a bush if I had a child that I was about to, sacrifice. I mean, if it has ever been possible before. And here you have to look at these stories metaphorically, because a lot of times, your ram in the bush may be something totally different. Your ram in the bush may show up as a car accident, or your ram in the bush may show up as a check that comes in the mail, a stimulus check, or it just depends on what you are going through. But it's really looking at it in terms of symbolism, that it may not be an actual ram, but it can be something else that appears on the scene to give you a different alternative or a different option. And so the process of maturing allows us to see analogously how things may unfold just like they did then, right now. Because if God was ever a God, it is still active and still present and still communicating with you right now. Right now. Right? So we are going through this and having our moments. So some tribes, it says, have very little awareness of the importance of exercise and healthy nutrition. For example, until a family member develops an illness, right? And so a new physical regimen, a more appropriate diet may be prescribed for the person that is ill. And as a result, the other family members have an entirely different reality introduced to their minds and their bodies, and concerning their needs to make more responsible and conscious choices in their personal life. So that's like a ram in the bush, right? You're on a certain track or a certain trajectory. Then all of a sudden, somebody develops, say, diabetes, right? And then this is in our family, right? I could be susceptible to this, then that means that I need to, put other stuff. And sometimes that momentum is created when the very first time, I know I'm talking a lot, but it's all good. Stephanie is still on her call. But the very first time I became vegetarian was when my mother was diagnosed with cancer. She got this diagnosis down in, her first chakra area. She got diagnosed. And I was going to her doctor appointments with her every day. And I did not have the notion that my mother was going to survive this. Because if you've listened to me at all, for any time at all, you might remember that I said that even before my mother was diagnosed, I had a dream that she was about to die, right? I had a dream of her death. So I knew that she was going to die. I didn't have an issue with that. It was like, God was preparing me for that, but also preparing me in a way that says, look, you got work to do here, right? So my thing wasn't, because usually what happens is that you try to stop something from happening. And what I knew is that I could not stop what I was about to deal with. I could not stop her from dying. I got that real clear. But what I could do, and what I knew I was being instructed to do, was to facilitate this. So in my mind, the message that I got is that I was supposed to escort her. There's another word that wants to come up for me. I don't know if it's midwife or what, but I was supposed to usher her to the door. I got that really clear. So when we were going to the doctor, my questions to the doctor was not how to avoid this, but rather how to make this transition as comfortable as possible. But she went through and she had radiation therapy. I do believe she had chemotherapy. She was doing all the stuff that she thought that they told her was best to do, right? And so she was doing those things. But one day I remember I asked the doctor, I said, is there a way that we can slow down that? Now that was my question. Is there a way we could slow down the progression of this cancer? And he says, well, sure. He was like, most people, if you cut out meat, if you really pay attention to what it is that you're putting into your body, it gives you a better chance or a better way of dealing with this, because your body doesn't have to deal with the processing of that type of matter. And it has more energy to do the healing work as opposed to the digestion work. So, getting her to eat differently would be helpful. So I was like, okay. So I was like, Ma, I said, let's stop eating meat. And so that was the very first time that I had been introduced to that lifestyle. I quit cold turkey. I left out of there and I said, let's stop eating meat. And I stopped eating meat. My mother, she stopped for a while, but then she started back because she found it too difficult to change her habit. But I still stayed vegetarian for a few years, even after she had passed. Then I started back eating meat. And then I've done it twice since. And I don't know how long now it's been since I haven't eaten meat. It's got to be at least maybe 3-4 years now. But that was another change that happened, and it happened because or as a result of that particular event. My mother getting sick, me trying to figure out how can I help, then changing that. And there have been other changes that we have seen. Now, I know that there are certain things, when you know that there are certain things that run in your family that you have to deal with, it causes you a lot of times to do something different. And so some people will say, well, not me, not me. This is not, I'm not going to have high blood pressure, even though it runs in your family. I'm not going to have arthritis, even though it runs in your family. People make up their minds that they are not going to be susceptible to that, and then work in a way that that alleviates some of that. I know for me, arthritis runs in my family, but what I know is that when I eat glutens, I can feel that arthritis that runs in my family. When I don't eat glutens, I don't feel that so much. And so it's always amazing to me the ways that you can find within your own, trial and error to offset some of the things that are happening. So and so we make changes as we find out new information. We are able to make those changes. So she says here, seen symbolically, our life crises tell us what we need to break free of beliefs that no longer serve our personal development. So these points at which we must choose to change or to stagnate are our greatest challenges. Change or stagnate, right? Change or stagnate. And stagnation, when you're in it, especially if you're used to progressing, when you come to a point where you feel like you're stuck, you are keenly aware of it. Sometimes you can see that stuckness coming before it gets to you. You know that a choice that you're about to make is going to cause a disrupt in that progression. Oh gosh, I can tell you how many times that has happened for me. It continues to happen for me. And then it's almost like this gnawing over on the side that is telling me, you know what, you got to make some changes, right? You're stuck here. This is a place of contention. You got to do something different. And that could be any number of things, right? That can be from the level of giving that you do, like financial giving. It can be from whether or not you are open and receptive, volunteering, whether it's a relationship that's no longer serving you, whether you're on a job that you absolutely hate, whether you got unforgiveness going on in your life. I mean, there's a number of things. I could go on and on about some of the choices that we make that keep us stuck, right? That just keep us stuck. Sometimes it is, for me, if I'm not talking enough, if I'm not sharing enough, if I'm not doing this, right? I feel a certain level of stuckness because I know that in order to receive, I must give. Let me see if I can explain that to you better. There is this need that I have to express. That's what I do. I express. So when I am expressing, when I'm talking, when I'm sharing, when I'm doing what I'm doing here, right? I feel as if there is a flow that happens, right? So the more that I give, the more that I receive. It's a divine flow that happens for me. When I stop, like if I don't, I almost feel as if, so first off, my intuition, the intuitive flow that I get, it goes down. It goes down. And I'm trying to get clear on all the stuff that happens. That intuition, it it can almost plummet. And there are other things that happen that make me feel as if I'm going to implode. And so never have I been at a point where I couldn't find a venue or an outlet for what it is that I'm doing. Sometimes it has been like when I first stopped doing the radio show. I went through, I think I've mentioned that I went through an amazing amount of depression that didn't look like I was sad or anything. It just looked like I was party girl. I was lights on, nobody home girl, right? Out doing whatever I was doing. And then I realized this wasn't me and I needed to figure out something else. And I was out someplace and I ran into some folks that were doing, they had a little television station and they had shows that were on cable. They had a whole cable channel and they were looking for programming and actually called me and said, hey, would you be interested in this? I was like, oh, here's my opportunity, right? So I absolutely said yes. And I jumped at the chance. And I started out doing those little things. This is just another food for thought. I mean, you might have saw them on my page. It's another food for thought. So I started out doing those things. And then that led me into something else and into something else. And then I got back into doing the radio. And then and now I can do this from my house. And whether or not somebody listens is not the point. The point is that I give, that I express. That's the point. And so whatever that may mean. And so you've got to figure out what serves your development, what it is that you do that is, what's your thing? Good morning, Rhonda. What's your thing? And so for all of us, we have something to give, something to express, something to share. And so just finding how that happens for you, whether it is writing, whether it is talking and dealing with kids, because sometimes that is something that's put on my heart too. I had shared a while back ago about talking to young folks about body image, because that's one of those things that I don't think we talk to kids enough about, right? That and even to talk about the pitfalls that are going to happen. I remember, and it's almost time for me to get off of here, but I remember one time my dad had a talk with me, right? And I was going to school, junior high school, and we were on the way to school, and my father decides that he needed to tell me about boys. Now, I don't know what your parents' conversation about the birds and the bees are going to be, but my dad said to me, he was like, look, there's going to be some little boys and they going to tell you, and what he told me is he going to tell me, he says, they're going to tell you that that they need to get in your pants. I don't even know how he said it, but he says they're going to say it hurts. They're going to say that they got blue balls. They're going to say that, that this, that, and the other. And he was telling me the very thing that I actually heard people give voice to when and he was like, that bullshit ain't true. Right? And it was such an awkward conversation. And it was so like, like, whatever, Dad, kind of thing, right? I was blown away by all of that. But then what blows you away is when you actually hear it being said back to you, just like he told you it would be. So now you got a decision to make. What's my decision going to be based on? Is it going to be based on you in pain? Do I care if you in pain or not? Deal with it, dude, right? I mean, and so I don't know. Do we have those conversations? Are we prepared? Are we preparing our young ladies? What are we doing? And so sometimes, when we're not showing up for the people even that are in our lives, we have got to show up and have conversations. So our expressing is sometimes also because somebody needs to hear what it is that you're saying. And so I'm so glad that there are the people out there that that write the books to the curious little girls, or the people who have the talk to the boys that are trying to figure out who they are too in the midst of this. Because we sit there and we talk about girls. Yes, it's the girls that can get pregnant, but then we also have to talk to boys too, right? It becomes about what it is that we're doing. And just because you don't have children does not make you exempt from having the conversations. I talk about the kids that were at the radio station where I worked at, and how I had conversations with them. I bought condoms for them. Randy still had babies, and he still got caught up, but that's not the point, right? It didn't happen until, he ended up not going to college, but it didn't happen until after he was out of high school. But it's the point is to have the conversations, right? Male, female, whatever you can do to really help people navigate this. And when those moments come up, when they have questions, at least they will already have that information within them. So she says in here, most people I encounter in my workshops are stuck in between two worlds: the old world that they need to release, right? And the new world that they are afraid to enter. And so the question becomes, where are you in that vernacular? In that scenario? Are you stuck in the old ways, or are you into your new one, or somewhere in between? And if you're here, I'm assuming that that you're going forward, right? Because this is what we're doing here, right? And so we are attracted to becoming more conscious, is what she says, but at the same time we find it frightening, because it means we must take responsibility for ourselves. I tell you, it is scary. It is, because when I broke with my tribe, I remember going back to my old church, for instance, and people coming up to me saying, "Girl, I heard you died. How you get it back here?" Right? Stuff like that. You get people who really try to get you to go back to where you are. When I got up, when I talked about that depression that I went through after losing the radio show, I went through the depression, and I found myself sitting in a bar with a bunch of people, and I was like thinking, how did I get here? I got up and I went to walk out the door, and they started calling me back. "Where are you going? Where are you going, girl? What?" And I was like, "The sun is shining. I gotta go outside," right? Because you're sitting in a dark bar at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. What am I doing here? I want to go out into the sunshine. And they was like, "Oh, girl, come on, we'll go. We can go down to the lake later." No, right? No. Later will not work for me. I'm done with this now. It's kind of like one of those things at the end of the whiz, when the witches flush down the toilet, and the factory workers are coming, they were pulling off these old things, and they were saying, "Can't you see a brand new day?" Right? Can't you see a brand new day? And that was one of those things that all of a sudden, when you share that oldness, when you figure out you don't have to be who you were, you don't have to go back to what you did anymore. You can be brand new, you could be brand new just because you make a decision. And so that's one of the blessings that, you know, the 5 a.m. group has brought for me. That's one of the blessings that the yoga, that's one of the blessings that this has brought for me. You could be brand new and just move forward. Once you make that transition into something different, you don't even look back, right? Don't be like Lot's wife looking back over something that was, right? Don't look back, just keep moving. That's what this is really all about. All right, it's time for me to end here. I thank you for being here. Stephanie, thank you. I know you're probably listening, even though you're not visible, but thank you for being here. I thank you, thank you, thank you. And I will see you here tomorrow, 7:15, 7:20. And we will move on through this this section, and I will be all set for you. All right. So blessings to you. Have an amazing wait a minute. A winning Wednesday, as Rhonda was saying. All right. So love you guys. I'll see you tomorrow. All right. Bye. Bye.